Hi, I'm Dr. Mike Milligan. We are here at the Moses course for sleep apnea and snoring. We're in the Sears Tower in Chicago, and I'm here with Dr. Richard Bonato of MediByte. Richard, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks, my pleasure.
Well, now Richard, tell us a little bit about your background, and then we'll move into the MediByte, which is a home sleep testing device for sleep apnea and snoring, and other things.
Well, I started studying sleep in 1986,
Okay.
and it was quite a fascinating topic for me. So after my undergraduate career, I attended graduate school and then became registered as a sleep technologist back in 1991. So I was the 604th person in the world to actually do that, and there's tens of thousands today.
Right.
At that point, I continued along my academic career and got my Ph.D. specializing in sleep research while I was working at a hospital sleep disorders laboratory.
Okay.
And then around the mid-90s, I kind of grew weary of grant applications and then got into industry, working at that point
Became an entrepreneur here.
There you go.
Okay.
And got into business, and then we founded Braebon in 1998 with the goal of making sleep products for sleep laboratories and also home sleep testing equipment.
Great. Okay. And so this was in the late 90s.
Correct.
Okay. And so then when did this MediByte, that you've got the MediByte Junior now and the MediByte, tell us a little bit about those and what they tell someone, how comfortable they are compared to a sleep lab and that type of thing.
Sure. Yeah, the MediByte has been on the market since 2006,
Okay.
and it's in use now on 6 continents around the world.
Uh-huh.
So we have 2 versions, as you mentioned. There's the MediByte Junior, which is 6 channels, and then there's the MediByte 12-channel version.
Okay.
The difference between the 2 is just the number of channels that we're recording.
Yep.
So both comply with the American Academy of Sleep Medicine guidelines.
Okay.
Right now, the MediByte retails for about $4,000,
Okay.
and the MediByte Junior for about $2,500.
All right.
So both products will measure airflow, body position, they'll measure ventilatory effort,
Right.
and then pulse oximetry.
Okay.
Now the MediByte 12-channel version, you can also do additional channels such as audio, and you can actually play back the snoring for the patients.
Which is very profound and motivational for the patient. If they can actually hear their own snore, and then the improvement with something like the Moses oral appliance, it's huge. So, okay.
Yeah, absolutely, and that was shown this weekend here at the course.
With several of us.
Correct.
Right.
And in addition to that, you can also measure EMG for looking at oral facial movements and bruxism during sleep.
Right, right. Which
and
we
then,
see a lot, Dennis.
Right, and then we can associate that with respiratory disturbances.
Right.
And for sleep laboratories, we can also measure leg movements, and we can also measure EKG.
Right. But there's a huge correlation between the abfractions that we see, the flat teeth and the grinding that we see, and sleep apnea.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
So we learn that at these courses, and we can measure that with this MediByte.
Right, so if you read the research by Dr. Gilles Levine, he talks quite a bit about measuring sleep bruxism and its association with activity during sleep.
Right, right.
Now, what we find interesting, of course, working with dentists is the magnitude of abfractions and bruxism that occurs in their practice, and the fact that 50% of the general population have snoring,
Right.
and as an alarm for more serious conditions such as sleep apnea. I think only a fraction of dentists that are out there are currently screening and
Very
evaluating.
Right, but it's growing. I mean, it's on a curve like this. I mean, more and more dentists are learning about this. Your sales of the MediBytes, I think you told me last night at dinner that already by the end of April you will have sold more MediBytes this year than you did all of last year. The growth curve is just like this on both sleep apnea, but also for MediByte.
Yeah, correct. It's
Braebon.
phenomenal growth, and dental sleep medicine is really coming into its own
Right.
with the new guidelines that were passed by the American Academy of Sleep Medicine in 2006. Also, the acceptance of home sleep testing by Medicare, Medicaid in 2008, and so all of this, the entire market is finally kind of coming together to embrace home sleep testing and the advantages therewith, which are cost advantages, convenience, and it's much more comfortable for patients.
A lot more comfortable. So not only do people not like their CPAP, they don't like going for those sleep center polysomnograms either. And so we've got the answer for both of these things with this type of course in certain patients. With the MediByte, it's so inexpensive to test someone. And in your own practice, probably half the people would benefit from a test. If you've got 2,000 patients, probably 1,000 of them would benefit. And it's like $8 to $12 to test one of these people with once you have the unit with the MediByte. So a screening device, wonderful to help your patients and grow your practice.
Right, exactly. So the low per study cost,
Yeah, it's huge.
we say it's about $8 a study. And so it's really inexpensive to do as many tests as are necessary to truly evaluate the effectiveness of oral appliance therapy. And with the the average charge that a dentist would charge a patient for an oral appliance, the payback is probably about 2 weeks, because if you make 2 oral appliances, you've more or less paid for the testing equipment.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right. So you can screen for these. It's such a wonderful service. You can screen your patient, and then for the ones that are higher with their sleep apnea, refer them out to the sleep lab or the sleep doctors. But for those that are lower, you even have a service where you can have a certified sleep physician recommend an oral appliance, if appropriate.
Yes, so we do have a service. We have a board-registered sleep technologist score the recording, and then we have a board-certified sleep specialist actually provide an interpretation. So that report would then be signed off by the doctor who has licensure in the state in the U.S. where the recording actually occurred, and that's sent back to the dentist, and then they have this medical interpretation report, and then they can go proceed and make the oral appliance as indicated.
Right, so the combination of the MediByte and Dr. Moses' course here, step-by-step procedure to screen your patients, help these patients, improve your practice, when to treat, when to refer, it's all right there. And the message that diagnose the kids first, because this is where it all begins, and you can prevent so many problems once they become adults if you can find this as children, treat this as children, and really improve their lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the advantages of the MediByte is that you can use it with children. You can use it with people on pacemakers. You can use it on people that are on beta blockers. There are really no contraindications. And of course, with children, if you start looking at functional orthodontics, it's a fantastic lifelong cure in opening the airway, as opposed to something like CPAP, which is really just a Band-Aid.
Right, right. So the MediByte compared to some of the other units out there, just a couple more questions here. The MediByte compared to some of the other units out there, tell me the difference or the similarities.
Sure. The key difference is that we are using direct measurement. There are no inferred indirect correlational measures. Right. And we're using the exact same technology, the same biosensors as used in the sleep laboratories, because we provide much of our equipment to sleep laboratories. Right. So we are consistent with the American Academy of Sleep Medicine guidelines.
Okay. And you mentioned the cost for a unit, and for then the individual tests, about $4,000, $4,500 for the unit, and then $8 or so for a test is what it comes out to.
That's right. And so for dentists to get involved into dental sleep medicine, it's a low cost for entry, and the payback is just a matter of 2 or 3 oral appliances.
Right. Well, Richard, how would we get in touch with you for more information and to purchase one of the MediBytes? Sure.
We have a toll-free line at 888-462-4841. Our customer service line is extension 218, and my office, my extension is 202. And you can always email me at rick@braebon.com.
Do you have a website?
Yes, www.braebon.com.
Braebon, BRAEBON.com.
That's right.
Richard, thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, you're welcome.